Hello guys, I'm going to speak for a few seconds for just to get some feedback, some thoughts. Please send in your messages. Say if the volume is clear so that you can hear me clearly. Whether the chat is visible, whether the volume is fine, the sound is fine, all the rest of it. So next 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, we're going to keep a very short session. Just send in your thoughts. Just tell me that the volume is clear and sound is clear. We're all working out of remote spaces, so I'm just asked my kids to watch some movie and I've come here. So I'm not that sure that things are going fine. So it'd be lovely if a few of you could say voice is clear, the decibel is clear, and you can hear me well, and then we'll jump in and start shooting this. And so we'll jump in and start talking about COVID and impact on MBA decision and all the rest of it. And so we're going to keep it a short session. We're going to say what we are focusing on, what is our what is the impact on the economy likely to be, and more particularly how does it govern the MBA decision. And so now this MBA decision thing is going to be in multiple parts. And so the guys who are already doing their MBA right now, who finished their MBA, looking at final placements, they are in a soup. Find quite a few companies are likely to have rescinded offers. I graduated in 2003. Even in 2001, 2, there were quite a few offers that were rescinded. I think one of the companies was a company called I2. They canceled their offers and then somebody else had to mop them up. The .com bust happened in 2001. There were placement issues then, in the sense that everything went swimmingly well, and then the offers were taken back. And so that happens. You can't really blame the companies. There are quite a few startups that recruit at the IIMs these days. These are heavily funded, non-profitable startups. And so somebody has their hand in the cookie jar, so everything's fine, goes swimmingly better. But then if something like this happens, offers will be taken back. That is the reality of it. It will happen for internships, it will happen for jobs. So the guys who have finished their MBA and looking to join the workforce on June 1st, they can very well expect to join perhaps by August 1st or September 1st. They get an extended holiday, not the end of the world. The guys who are doing their internship, they're in trouble. Internships probably won't happen. They'll have to do some kind of project and fudge it. Not the end of the world, but it's some kind of small problem. And so, but these are not points where we take a decision on. It is not something where you're already there doing an MBA. So there's nothing to be decided from here on. Fine. So now what is going to happen? Should I join an MBA with this kind of uncertain outcome, with the world being what it is? Fine. So my suggestion, if you're joining a 2-year MBA, it's a good time to join an MBA. When recessions last for 2, 3, 4 quarters, they generally don't last 8 quarters unless we are in a severe depression, in which case all bets are off. And so recession follows a certain pattern. It goes, growth starts declining, and then we'll come back and hit a trough, and then it starts recovering. The job market picks up slightly even before the economy starts recovering. People start hiring, people see that some clearing out is happening. The stock market recovers even before the jobs market. Fine. So that's the usual pattern of a recession. You'll have declining growth, perhaps hit a 1 quarter of negative growth or very low growth, and then bounce back after that, during which phase capacity building, all of that happen. And so another type of economic disruption is a natural disaster. So if you have a big earthquake, a big tsunami, big flood, then you get a hit for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, where economic activity in a particular geography stops, and then it comes back. So there's a hit, but growth and going concerns and how it works long term, they're all not affected. Right. So if you're looking to join a 2-year MBA now, then join the MBA assuming there's not going to be any major impact from COVID, and it's unlikely to happen. It's not likely that economy will be in a giant recession for 2 years from now. And so we're already begun contracting, and so it's going to be disastrous, but there's usually a bounce back which happens. And so it's an interesting thing to kind of think about. what could happen to the economy 2 years from now. What are the guys who are in the forecasting business, what are they saying? And so the IMF, the National Monetary Fund, they are saying that we're going to have severe contraction this year and a serious hit to the economy this year, and this is significant. And so the number the IMF is touting is the world economy being down 3%. And so natural disasters are focused geographically narrow, and they leave a one-time hit. And so whereas this one is not narrow, this is not a one-time hit, this is broad-based. And so there's a one-time hit, but not just like an earthquake or a tsunami or floods, not a 2-week 3-week hit, but a sustained period of shutdown. So it's like a natural disaster which crashes everything, but across all geographies, which is going to be followed by a recession. So it's a combination of what happens with a big one-time hit and a nice deep recession, both put together. And so the IMF is actually saying the global economy is projected to contract by 3% in 2020, which is sharp. The last recession that we had was 2008-9. I was a banker doing stock peddling. I used to pitch to hedge funds to buy and sell stock and short this and buy that option, all kinds of nonsense. And so I used to read reams of stuff, and it used to be really scary because I was working in a large investment bank, and the banks right next door were going bust. So there was a weekend where it looked like Morgan Stanley would go bust, Merrill Lynch would go bust, Lehman was already out, Bear Stearns was already out, and a couple of Swiss banks were flirting with bankruptcy, and Tata, not Tata, AIG was in trouble. So it was disastrous, and this could have become endemic and all over the place very rapidly. Fine. So, but in that recession, which is called a Great Recession, the world economy contracted by 0.1%, and so now they're talking down 3%. So this is a cull. This is just removing one giant part of the economy and just saying, look, we don't have it this year. Having said that, the IMF, who is actually the leading body in tracking world economics, they're saying the next year is assuming the pandemic starts fading in the second half of 2020, that is from July onwards, we'll have a bounce back to about 5.8%. So even if you don't consider a scenario kind of as optimistic as this, even if you say this stays for another 6 months, 9 months, by the time you're into 2022, the economy will be ready to bounce back in spring. Usually what happens is whenever there's a recession, capacity contracts, not just the economy. So if you can produce 1,000 cars, you start producing 900, 800, 700, 600 every day. But then the moment it becomes 500, below that, you say, look, I don't need to have an infrastructure to produce 1,000. God knows when it will come. Let me ramp the production capacity down. Let me lay off a few people. Let me furlough a few people. Let me stop non-essential functions. Let me not worry about annual maintenance. Let me cordon off one part of my factory. All that will happen. So my capacity shrinks from 1,000 to 500. Right? When the recovery happens, not only does output start coming, capacity building also comes in. So I call in new engineers, I expand my plant, I bring in new people, I re-employ. All that will have a period of compensatory growth. So there'll be a bounce back that happens. So if you're looking to do an MBA, fine, so and you have a chance of starting now, it is reasonably likely. It is very likely that by the time you graduate, especially if it's a 2-year MBA, which you're going to start in 2020 June and graduate by 2022 June, so 24 months from now, when your recruitment will happen 18-19 months from now, and they're going to look at 24 months from now, that outlook to recruit. The risk of it being a poor decision is very low. Very counterintuitively, it could be a breakthrough year. When economic cycles have a downswing and an upswing. So even if we have a lull for 1 year, it is going to be not bad. And so keep that in mind. IMF forecast is as clear an indicator as anything. They're taking a baseline of pandemic recovery, and they're saying basically that, hey, we're going to be down 3% this year, which is a cull, which has been one of those never before seen type of recession, because this is broad based across geographies. heavy interlinking. It's going to destroy a few industries. Everything is not slowing down or reducing. Everything has gone from X to zero rapidly. And so down 3% is a sharp recession. It's going to leave a reasonable term impact. But notwithstanding that, they're saying we'll have a 5.8% growth in world economy, which is like a bull run. Right? So if the world economy grows by 5.8% in 2021, then the guys who are graduating that year are the luckiest fellows. Right? So now the graduating year, there's a lot of research on this in the US especially. Is graduating year important or graduating college important? Between the two, apparently graduating year is important. So you can graduate from Harvard or Yale in year X and year X plus 5. The difference is very significant. Right? So graduating from a college rank 40 in a good year is better than graduating from Harvard in a bad year. Right? So graduating 12 months from now might be fantastic. 24 months from now, generally out. And so the guys who are looking to prepare for CAT, and you should just not be bothered about this, because you're going to prepare for CAT now for 8 months or 6 months. Take the exam, hopefully join in 2021 May, June, graduate in 2023 June, which is from here 38 months. And there's an awful lot of time for an economic recession, even one as deep as this, to bounce back from. And so there's going to be concerted government action. There's going to be a lot of trouble, but this is don't worry. If you've got a good admit, join. Have faith that things will bounce back. Things look very bleak in the moment, but it's not a recession that's going to be around for 6 quarters. Unlikely. There will be a bounce back at some point of time. It could be a wonderful decision for you to graduate in 2022. If you're thinking about starting to prepare now, it's a no-brainer. Absolutely, don't even think twice about it. Throw everything into it, and then you're off. Right? So, what are the cons? What can go wrong? You're going to deal with 2 years worth of employment pool. Right? So, all the guys who are graduating next year are going to be looking for jobs, including and in that pot, all the guys who are graduating this year are also going to be looking for jobs. So the 400 guys who graduate from Ahmedabad, some 50 or 70 or 100 will automatically get into good jobs. The remaining 300 are going to join slightly iffy jobs, or jobs they're starting in November or October. And so that's an issue. They're either looking to shift or they're looking to get into real employment or serious good jobs at the end of the recession. So basically they're going to say, look, 6 months went away, now I'm back in the employment pool. So your competition for jobs is going to be high. But I've seen this in the past. So if graduating year N is bad, in N plus 1th year, your McKinsey's, BCG's, Goldman's, Hindustan Levers, Procter & Gamble, Asian Paints, ICICI, Citigroup, Kotak Mahindra, all of them want to recruit a large pot from the present batch. They're not looking for the batch that went awry, the batch that had a mess of a nightmare of a year. They're not looking for that. Fine. So keep that in mind. So the recessionary impact is going to be there. It is significant. It is like never before. It is like a one-off impact plus a deeper recession. It's a double whammy. Absolutely no doubt about it. This is probably one of the worst incidents for the world economy of the last 25-30 years. Fine. But if you're looking at an outlook for 24 months from now, chances are it's going to be good. If you're looking for 36-37 months from now, there's absolutely or very little reason to worry about how that might be impacted negatively. Right? So now there are a bunch of questions, but I'm going to have one more idea I want to discuss, which is about how things can be in the near term. Right? So this is something that I read, written by one of my classmates, and I found it interesting. Why this recession is probably likely to be deeper, harsher, longer than ever before. A couple of points he made. He said, look, this is not a recessionary trough and bounce back. This is a collapse and rebuild, and it's a very serious aspect of this whole thing. This is a nice collapse, and after which we rebuild. And so there's going to be the economy was functioning at a certain level, and then it crashes to zero. This hardly ever happens in a recession. And so we've had 3 to 4 weeks of only absolute essentials in terms of economic activity, right? And the bounce back is going to be prevented in the short term because we'll still have social distancing. We'll still have people worried. We're worrying about a recurrence. We won't have a vaccine this quickly. And so we will still say international travel has to be monitored. We'll still worry about foreign shipments. We'll still worry about events linked industries. So you're worried about watching IPL matches. You're worried about going to big concerts. You're worrying about going to giant religious institutions. All of those are going to be factors for a good 5-6 months after lockdown ends. I mean, almost all countries are debating this. US is, Spain is, Italy is. They've all crashed the economy reasonably well, but they have not yet figured out the best way forward for reviving it back. When New York is actually thinking they'll give badges. They'll give badges for people who have already got COVID and they're autoimmune. They're automatically immune, so they can come back. But that will be like ghettoizing people. There's haves and have-nots. The guys who have had the virus will rule the roost. Then that's not politically correct. The democracy, as I said, that's an issue. Right. So saying one part of the economy will function, who have not yet got it, you will still be in quarantine. It's tougher to monitor, tougher to check. You have to continuously keep checking and monitoring. That's a nightmare. So we're going to have some form of limited activity for a while. Right? So especially for a country like India, where communal living is very common, we'll have a migrant worker problem. Migrant workers are raring to go back to their places. And if I'm the simple logic being, if I'm screwed over, I might as well be screwed over at home. I cannot afford to live in Mumbai without a salary. But if I have to be in my village, I'll live. And so they're desperate to go back. These if they spend 6 weeks in Mumbai struggling for food, and then they go back to their village, there is a scar that is there. You're not going to jump back and come back. And so right about the time the social distancing norms get eased and come back could be the time where you're into holiday season and Diwali and all that. So there could be a further delay. We could have limited economic activity for 5, 6, 7 months. I'm convinced that India is resilient. I think we'll bounce back. I think next year will be fine. I think somewhere we'll find a combination, a cocktail of drugs that works for it. Social distancing already seems to be working. We will have this control. Bunch of industries will struggle. We're taking such a huge hit that the bounce back is not going to be easy. But capacity build, everything. This is going to be a deep one-shot hit with a nice medium-term impact. Fine. So, but the pain is not going to be just 2 months, 3 months long. It's going to be 2 months before we come back to some form of economic activity, and a further 5, 6 months before we come back to something resembling normalcy. Schools that deal with little children, they're going to have a nightmare of a decision about resuming action in June. If you're running a school, I'll have all kinds of plan B, plan C, plan D to say, look, everyone below 5th standard don't come here. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, we'll run half classes for 1 week, another half for the other week. I want you guys to sit one per table. Then we'll give most of the stuff online. I'll teach them in class how to do the online stuff. I'll ask parents to accompany kids just so that they can learn the tech. But I will not have a full-fledged schools. Our schools are communal hotspots. Fine. So not religious communal, community living communal. Fine. So let's not go on digging some other controversy randomly here. They're hotspots because kids, when I have a son who's 11, he cannot have a conversation with his friend without putting his arm over or giving a high five or running together and jostling and being young boys. And so that's the giant hub for transmission. So schools will have to be ultra careful. So will have to be colleges. So public transportation. Our Mumbai local train, you start resuming life, then Mumbai local can just destroy a locality. If there is even 1% of the population, 0.1% have some remnant of the virus, it can destroy the whole zone. Fine. So our recovery from this has to be very measured, very careful, well thought out, slow, planned, with reams and reams and layers of social distancing played out. So we're going to say essential services, little more than essential services, then alternate 2 weeks in, 2 weeks out for large corporates. Work from home as a practice, as a habit. only meetings in office, all of that. And so it's going to be another 6 months from the time lockdown ends before anything resembling normalcy comes. If we're talking about the academic year, this year is bust. 2020-21 academic year for schools is bust. Colleges will manage, but schools are going to struggle. And young kids, you can't monitor them. You can't tell them don't talk to your friend. You can't tell them you've got to be quarantined. You need to be careful. None of that will work. And so that is going to be an issue. Right? The chart clearly says that if we come out by end of May, then mid-May to June, July to September, October to November, we'll keep taking steps up. But even 6 months from now, we are not back to pre-lockdown levels. It ain't happening. And that's a forecast the lovely enthusiastic Sudarshan Gangrade has put in. And I'm with him. I'm worried about resumption of activity. I think all essentials will come back, but economic activity is going to take a 6-month hit. And so that is something that we all have to factor in. The some industries are going to have a medium term impact. Airlines are going to struggle. I would worry about tourism. I'll worry about transport. I'll worry about restaurants. I'll worry about even public transport. And so commutes, IPLs, concerts, anything where a bunch of people coming together is essential to the functioning. There's going to be a scar. Those of you who are raring to go out now, you'll be less raring to go out when you can actually go out. And likely that you're all 24, 25, 26, 27 and it doesn't bother you. But I can tell you the guys upwards of 55, 57, it's going to leave a deeper impression on them. They're going to basically just say, look, chuck it, I'm not going to a mall for the next 2 years. I'm not going to make that fancy trip to Dubai. God knows what's happening in the Middle East. I worry even about Singapore. What if something happens and I get locked down there? So the impact of spending 4, 5, 6 months locked down in some form or restricted in some form is going to have a certain impact on several industries. So that is an issue. So you have to account for that. And so all of us are in it for the long term. So we'll have to accept that these industries are going to get decimated. Our behavior will change. Behaviors change during recessions. Behaviors change more during deeper recessions. These kind of pandemic, pan-geographic, global event-led recessions will leave serious psychological impressions. It will happen. And so we'll have to accept that it will happen. We'll have to realize that we'll also have it. We're not going to be subconsciously the kind of decision that we'll make. See, we're all become very conscious to somebody coughing and sneezing gently. So imagine this: you go out and it's October. You're back to office. You're going on an Uber, and you go on a Uber share. You go on Uber share. The guy who's sitting next to you coughs. Next day, you're thinking, do we really need to go on Uber share? I can shift out. Either I take my own vehicle, or I go on Uber, or I take the office bus. But I'm not doing Uber share anymore. If a bunch of people completely stay away from Uber share, then Uber starts struggling. So the behavioral impacts can spiral out. You can very easily have linked effects over and over again, layer after layer. So this is we've not yet started worrying about, okay, what are we going to do for 6 months of reduced social distancing? I'm worried. I'm an entrepreneur, so I know that at some level we have to keep the show going. And so there's a bunch of activities that we got lined up. Our business is online, so luckily enough we are among the least affected directly. But our output is affected. The people who are consuming what we have already done, because it's a product that's not affected. But we have a product pipeline for 3 other product launches. We're doing a freakishly ambitious product for school kids for mathematics. We've been working on for 2.5, 3 years, scheduled to get launched in May. I don't know, maybe we'll launch it in June, but I'm not speaking to the guys, I'm not interacting with them, I'm not collaborating. So a bunch of things are getting affected, and that affects our forecast revenues. So now I'll be iffy about new recruitment. I was very punchy, very aggressive, very gung-ho and enthusiastic 4 months ago, 3 months ago. Now Now, whoever we've not got recruited and put on board, we're going to put everything on hold till we don't even have an office. How do I recruit? So our office would have had a 50% or 40% increase in headcount. Now it's not going to have that till October, November. That's an issue. And so these kind of issues are going to be there across the board and deeper in some specific industries. And so now this is the economy and what should the MBA decision. So if you're doing preparing for CAT, no brainer. Put your head down, prepare for CAT, prepare intensely for CAT, because there's going to be a bunch of people who have a lot of time on their hands and are preparing really sharp. And so people have time. That's going to make an impact. Fine. If you've got a good admit, join. It's not the bad decision. You've got 24 months to placements. Good chance you'll get a good job. The economy will be bouncing and running. If you're just graduating now, tough luck, friend. You've been dealt a tough hand. Fight, skill yourself like mad. Find 5 things to learn. Become entrepreneurial. Even if you're not starting something on your own, think like an entrepreneur. So you have to skill yourself, build your brand, be employable 6 months from now, 9 months from now. Have something to hawk yourself for. Your brand is not going to sell, you'll have to sell. Your IMX is not going to find a job. You have to find a job for yourself. So do all that. Internships will still escape. And so how am I going to use this time to prepare? Go berserk. You need to do gazillion puzzles. My gut feel is the number of people applying for CAT might stay the same or shrink. The number of people seriously preparing for this intensely is going to increase. And they're going to be the guy who's getting the score for 60th percentile will remain the same. The score for 99th percentile might go up by 5%. Because the top 2-3% of our country are rapidly competitive, intense. They've been brought up in a scarcity economy. We have been brought up in a scarcity economy. Why they? I cleared 2 competitive exams. I knew it was either clearing them or bust. So I had to throw everything in, and I did. Not once, twice over. If you told me, okay, this is a recession, so you all have to, whoever can do extra 5 more marks can only have a shot at the top colleges. I would have basically screamed my head off saying, why should it happen this year? And then thrown myself into it. You'll definitely have 2,000 people who are going to throw themselves into it and say, look, this is a scramble. We are from here. Right? So we are not in a land of plenty. We are not in glorious Scandinavia or wonderful California, where no matter what, the government has your back or the economy is still thriving and all that. And even they are going to struggle. But we are a poor country. We are a scarcity economy. Fine. So there are going to be 7,000-8,000 people who are going to scramble like mad over the next 6-7 months. And like for like get 4, 5, 10 marks more than what they would have otherwise got. So at the very top, the competition is going to be intense this year. So don't sit and pony around and look for inspiration. Don't say, ये lockdown है, पता नहीं अब क्या करूँ, lockdown के बाद काम करूँगा. All that is nonsense. This is not a 2-week thing. This is not a 1-month thing. This is not a 2 months thing. We're going to be locked down for a total of 5-6 weeks. We're going to be with muted action or limited interaction, severe social distancing norm for another 6 months. You can mope around and feel bad for yourself and for the world, or you can pick yourself up and be a lighting light who's happy and delighted that, hey, at least I have something to do with myself. I will use that time productively, prepare myself, gear myself up, and make up for lost time a year from now. Be in that rabbit group. There are quite a few guys who are going to be able to temperamentally sound to do that. And so I'm telling myself every day that this is a hand. So you have to shoot at home. So I've locked myself, put a green screen, and I'm here. I want to shoot for a couple of classes every day. This is life. We've got to cope. And so we are from India. And so this is fabulous line from one of my favorite movies, A Wednesday. And so we are resilient by force, sir, not by choice. And so that is true. We are resilient by force. हमारा कुछ choice नहीं है. You're either resilient or you go bust. You're either resilient or you don't get to a good college. You're either resilient or you struggle in life. And so add that layer of resilience and throw yourself into it. Find your discipline, find your motivation, find your grit, find your temperamental soundness. But I can tell you, my gut feel is that the number of applicants probably goes down. Number of people preparing for CAT seriously goes down. But the number of guys who are going to seriously prepare intensely, who are the guys who are competing for the top 2%, 3%. They are still there. They're out there. They'll make success of their own lives. Make sure you're among them. And so get a good peer group, push yourself hard, and hang in there. There's absolutely no grounds for losing steam now. And so you don't lose steam. Now I'm going to jump in and answer a few questions on this. I'm going to focus on economy and admits and preparation, not on anything else. Guys who are waiting for results, like you've done the exam, there's nothing else to do. Watch Netflix Prime, prepare yourself, do some certification. If you have maybe if you're keen on finance, do CFA. If you're keen on marketing, pick up a marketing book and read. If you can get yourself some internship in some place, ping in and do. If you can put content, do. If you can teach. Fine. So now is the time to do all that, to switch off. Don't fall into the productivity trap where you're continuously saying, what am I doing at my every minute? It's not going to happen. And don't fall into this completely lacking motivation lull, because it's going to kill you. Fine. So this is fabulous speech by a guy called Tim Minchin, where he says, I think 9 rules for life, where he says, for whoever you are, teach. If you're a teacher, teach. If you're not a teacher, teach. Once in your life, teach. For a long time, teach. For many times over, teach. And so teaching makes things clear in your mind. It gives you an extra layer of clarity. It helps you consolidate. It makes you more articulate. And if you're a teacher, you somewhere strive for putting yourself in the shoes of the person who's receiving this content. There is more pressure, so you're more rounded. The kind of stuff where you had a gap in, you will fill it, because tumhara nahi hai. Because of you, that guy could struggle in a competitive exam. So you can't just leave one bit ununderstood. So you'll go and fight for that. You become empathetic, you become compassionate. So it has payoffs at multiple levels. So those who are saying, I'm twiddling my thumbs and I'm getting bugged, teach kids, teach adults, teach math, teach science, teach something. Just pick up some idea, make a beautiful presentation of it, sit with a video, shoot it and upload it on YouTube and send it to 5 kids that you know. Teaching is a wonderful. Obviously I will say this, fine. So this, I am obviously the worst guy to listen to on this, fine. I started teaching, and when we didn't have a business. So I like teaching. So that's not a secret, that's not unexpected, or that's not surprising. Those of you who know us, 2IIM, almost everybody in 2IIM likes teaching. I definitely like teaching. And I had a fabulous cushy banking job, and I took a 95% pay cut to start teaching in an old thatched hut roof. Fine. So I like teaching. So I per se enjoy it. But I can tell you that even if you're not into teaching, it's a brilliant outlet. It's something that that'll keep you going, that'll keep you fun, engaged, empathetic, interesting, give you a sense of satisfaction. And if you're in a place where you have jack to do for 3 months, there are few better things to do than create wonderful content and teach. So go do that. And so those of you waiting for results, they chuck it. At least it will remove the stress of you. Keep that in mind. Should I join a college like IMI Delhi or take a drop? To take a drop, never take a drop. Fine, I'm not. Taking a drop is not something that I'm going to ever recommend. Fine, so we have a job. A job is a freakishly precious thing. Talk to all the graduates who joined IMA, ABC, LIK 2 years ago, who did everything right, went through a placement process in February, who got jobs, and are now waiting for that one email saying, we'll not be able to start off on June, please join us in September. You're all waiting for that email. And so a job is a precious thing. If you have a job, hang on to it. Make your mark. This cat malarkey is dangerous. It's a one-off exam for 3 hours. And so it's not worth putting your life on hold on a gamble like that. If you're rich, then the ball game is different. And so I would never recommend quitting a job. Right? Having said that, there's one very interesting comment I saw from, I think, Rishabh on our Facebook group. He said, look guys, those of you who have quit, who have taken a job drop, don't make this the defining feature of your life. Don't keep on feeling guilty and worried and stressed about the fact that you have taken a job drop. Taken a drop, kill cat. Go and confidently say, I had to do what I had to do, and then see where it takes you. If you've done it, then you've done it. own it and make it work. But don't easily quit a job. Should I join a college like this or those? Look, any of these college decisions is clearly a function of where you are right now. And so if you're a student who graduated from a good engineering college 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and got into a plum job or a decent job, so something like a Zoho or Citigroup for a plum job, half a notch lower for a decent job, an exit salary of say you finish engineering and start with 5 lakhs per annum, and then you work for 2 years, you've got a couple of increments and bonus, and you're at 7.5 8 lakhs per annum. Then joining KJ Somaya or IMI Delhi, probably not the best thing, because another 2 years, all going well, you're going to probably look at 10 11 lakhs, especially if you shift jobs once. You spend 15 17 lakh doing an MBA and get up with a 12.5 13 lakh job. The ROI doesn't work out. But if you're fresh out of college and 1 year out of college, you've done a engineering degree, but you didn't land a plum job because your core sector hardly ever gives great jobs. You're doing coding in an IT sector company, getting 15,000 per month. Join KJ Somaya, get out of the 10 lakh salary, and you've taken off from there. And where you are will drive it, not just the name of the college. So keep that in mind. MBA stream for veterinarian, whatever you like, that works. There's no, your pre-MBA degree doesn't really matter. NIT 17 part out, GDPI for LK working for 3 years. Should I leave job to join? If you get into a good college, LKI are good colleges. This has nothing to do with COVID. 2 years from now, the job market will be good. So if you're not in a fantastic job, then you should take up the MBA. This is Aishwarya Tripathi. Shatrugna, how should I prepare for FPM through CAT? Prepare for CAT. FPM pretty much gets covered. Aim for as high a percentile as possible. The FPM cutoffs are significantly lower. And so the IM ABC 91 92 percentile, you'll get called for FPM if you write your answers well and do your interview well. NITI is superb. Yes, indeed it is. NITI is a fantastic college. Fresher and CAT preparation, ping us. There's a detailed CAT preparation schedule, plan, everything available on the website. You can give one of those most relevant to you and you should do. KJ Somaya depends on what you're doing right now. Will packages drop 2 years from now? Definitely not. Definitely not. Very unlikely to. When 2 years from now, there's every chance that we are out of recession and into recovery. And so if you have a recessionary period of lull for 2 years with no vaccine, then it's complete absolute nightmare. And even the worst case scenarios are not pointing that there. Thinking of quitting, I'll never say quit. But if you can take a sabbatical, if you can say, look, I'll stop by end of August, I'll come back by December 1, or you quit and you get a job back in December 1. If you can make the 2 months gap in your work experience as something between jobs, that's fantastic. MBA stream for veterinarian, you can join any stream, doesn't matter. Pre-MBA degree doesn't matter too much. Job in other field other than your specialization doesn't matter. Specialization is a very small boost. I specialized in operations and finance. My first job was in sales. My second job was in BPO. So I'd done an internship in sales and marketing, 6 months in sales, 12 months, 18 months in a BPO or KPO if you want to be fancy. But most of my mainstream career was as in a finance, hardcore finance, banking, equities job. And the moment I became an entrepreneur, I realized I should have spent more time, probably done more marketing than finance in my life while learning. Four years of work experience, what should be preferable? 4 years is probably still the 2-year MBA is more preferable. But if the options are open for both, definitely try both. Wonderful, guys. I think we've answered a bunch of questions related to COVID and economy and MBA. We've had a generally shooting the breeze conversation about this. So I've just been looking at the chat talk and come back. There's nothing that is specific to the economy or decision here. The questions on this, I've scored X in this year, Y in that year, and Z in undergraduation. Those are eternal questions. There are no good answers for that. And so I'm not going to go deeper into percentage and percentile that you have to get for each profile. Nor am I going to say which college you can join. Which college you can join is very intimately linked to where you are right now. That's very important. That's a very crucial part of the jigsaw. Should I move out of the placement process? And no, never. You should have a job in hand. Job is precious. How much does the first job matter for interviews and selection? Given it is not that great. Having a job matters. Knowing what job it is matters less. Debt bubble, we'll worry about debt bubble. I think the RBI governor has to worry about debt bubble, not us. April to November, is it sufficient to prepare for CAT? Most definitely yes, especially with our work from home schedule kind of baked into the way we are operating right now. Is studying abroad a good decision? As usual, COVID does not change that dynamic, especially if you're starting to prepare now. That means you'll go abroad 12 months from now to learn. Not an issue. Does working in family firm count? Yes. Make sure your employment is formal. You have a job title, role, salary slip, Form 16, taxes, the whole shebang. MBA abroad, good option. Take the GMAT, go abroad. NITI uses IM, Trichy uses SJM. So I think the colleges would be in that order. NITI, slight greater than or equal to IM, Trichy, one step better than SJM. So can we expect colleges to reopen later than usual? Yeah, very likely. Very likely. So many have not even put their admission processes in place. So they've stopped their admission processes. So the admission process will resume now. They'll crunch everything, but every chance that they'll still be delayed. Correct. So many colleges have deferred their admission cycle. There's nothing to do but wait. Keep yourself effectively occupied in that time. Wherever possible, teach. Is there a pattern how economies recover from recession? Recovering from recession, there's the bounce after the recession. Recovering from pandemic, there's no forecast model. We've not done this. We've not had pandemics before. At least not too many of them. Or the last serious one was 100 years ago. Apart from drill CAT set, OM study material for quant, is there anything else required for the grind? The drill set and textbooks are sufficient, more than sufficient. You don't need anything else beyond that. Economic situation for construction industry, medium term forecast for construction or building, I would be worried. People are worried they're not going to buy a house. People are losing jobs, they're not going to invest in real estate. We're going to have a 6-month lull and a recessionary recovery after that. Not rosy. If COVID gets worse, if it gets slightly worse than our current forecast, if recovery gets delayed by 6 months, even then doing an MBA, 2-year MBA would be a good decision. Preparing now and graduating from a B school 3 years from now would still be fine. The absolute worst case scenario, then all bets are off. If we don't have a vaccine for 4 years and there's a second strain that comes and a third strain and some mutation, then we're talking apocalypse. So all bets are off. Hopefully we won't be really seriously contemplating any of that. Wonderful, guys. I think the economy questions we have covered in depth and kind of had a longish discussion. All the best. Prepare intensely. Take this as an opportunity. Don't fret and whine and complain about it. Throw everything into it. Best wishes. Do reach out to us in case you have any queries, any doubts on anything related to CAT. We are not in our offices. We are out of our comfort zones. But we are still very much there. We're an online company. We're an online product. So you can reach out to us on all the platforms. We might be in different cities. Our payment gateway is behaving funnily. Our talk to page, our website is behaving funnily. Some of the things which we cannot fix directly are taking longer to fix. Such is life. The problems that we have are much less than the problems 99% of Indians have. I'm incredibly grateful for it. So should you be. So be thankful, be grateful. It's not the end of the world. Use your time to prepare, and apart from preparation and yourself, if you get even the slightest chance, teach. Please teach. Wonderful days. Best wishes.